social media posts, even though I've been advised not to. Just because somebody disagrees with you on the best course of action, and by the way, before I do this, I want to say that the emails and social media that we got was actually very, very small. People don't tend to send you emails when you're doing a good job. You know? They only do it when they disagree with something. And that's okay. I don't mind people disagreeing. We want the input, and I'll talk about that. But just because somebody disagrees with you on the best course of action for the district, it doesn't mean they don't care about kids, or that they put something else before the welfare of those kids. It simply means they have a different idea on what the best course of action is and what will benefit our children the most. We encourage communication, and it's all right to be passionate about an issue. Believe me, I understand about getting passionate about an issue. I've been accused of that more than once. But don't let that passion about your course of action lead to demonizing those with different opinions. You know, that's the basic problem we have in politics in America today. There's not a person that walks through those front doors that doesn't want the best thing for our kids, our families in this district. Let's try to remember that and treat them with the respect they deserve. Thank you. By the way, we closed on Monday. Superintendent wouldn't tell you about this, but she went to 12 different schools that morning trying to get the word out to people that we were closing schools. We had people go in and work at those schools trying to help other people. The crisis we face is something we haven't seen before, and it was tough. Lodi Unified, Dr. Washer, you and your staff did a great job. Thank you very much. And I'm going to move on from that. First item on our agenda are recognitions. We have a couple of them. First one is for Mr. Dr. Darryl Talkin. And to present that recognition, Mr. Ron Heverly.
Would you please join me at the podium?
Do we vote on that, or?
No, not at all.
Not only that, but you don't even get a say.
You're outvoted.
Second.
I'm going to turn my back on all of you for the moment.
Sure.
Yeah, well, whatever. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Darryl Talkin, thank you.
You're most
On behalf of the Lodi Unified School District and members of this school board, we want to thank you for your service. You've had a long history of service, many years for public education. And whether it's teaching, coaching, athletic director, principal at a high school for many years, you bring a different perspective than a lot of people. And that's very much appreciated. It was easy to tell your passion to doing the right things. I just love your focus on the students, their families, and our employees. And that perspective really had an impact, I believe. And anybody who knows you and spoke with you and had any time with you can really tell that you care about people. So again, on behalf of Lodi Unified School District and the school board, I want to congratulate you for your years of service with us and a small token of our appreciation.
very much. I will not speak because once I get to talking, I can't stop talking.
He's a teacher,
And
I married one.
I've been told by somebody that I've lived with for 57 years, do not talk when you don't need to. Thank you very much.
Ms. Gassel, would you join me at the podium, please?
I'm sorry, can we,
Oh,
I have some comments.
let's do it.
Mr. Talkin, that's okay. Dr. Talkin, thank you very, very much. I would join my colleague and his comments about you. With Dr. Talkin, what you see is what you get. He's a great, big grizzly bear of a guy who fights passionately for public education. And that big grizzly bear is all heart because he loves our kids. And I can't tell you what a resource he is for me, not having the public school background, having worked in a public school, for the insight that he gave, and how freely he gave it, and how generous he was in sharing of himself and his time. We are exceptionally fortunate for the 4 years that we've had with you. It's been an honor serving with you, and you actually came out of retirement to do this. Have a wonderful retirement again, very much well deserved. Thank you very, very much, sir.
Good. Well, Daryl's held more jobs in education than anybody that I know, and he can truly say, been there, done that. In fact, I wish we had a t-shirt to give you for that. Whenever we have a vote, whether it's on a computer screen or a voice vote, and I mark my decision, I always wait to see, I can't wait to see what Daryl's put up there, and if we agree, that I know I probably did it the right thing. So Daryl, thank you for being there and everything you've done for us.
Well, big guy, I'm gonna miss you. You're all, as soon as I come in here, we shake hands, and then you start talking about all the good things that you've done, all the bad things that you've done, and I forget the bad things and remember the good things.
Thank you.
Yes, and actually, Daryl and I have a lot of things in common because he went to Chico State, he started boxing, that's athleticism, and then he coached soccer. He coached many sports, and then he became an administrator, superintendent. No, superintendent. He did. He says
No, I wouldn't have
he was going to be elevated to superintendent. He says, "No, I'm staying with the group where I can do the best job that I can with youth," and now it's so important. I'm going to miss you, and I appreciate your humor. You have a lot of good humor for me, and we will get along and we'll get together sometime as we talked, okay? Thank you, Daryl.
Okay, so I'm the other bookend here with Dr. Tolkien. I know these two guys are going to play golf for sure. I'm positive of that. I have had the great privilege of sitting next to Daryl for this year on the board, and I've gotten to know him a lot better. And what I can tell you is he is a great guy. He's very funny. He's a jokester. We know that in closed sessions sometimes. And he's also extremely smart. As Gary talked about, he has an illustrious career as an educator and administrator that we all really relied on and appreciated. And above all else, I loved how he calls me kid. He's a wonderful guy, and I will miss you very much, Daryl. Best wishes.
Daryl, thank you very much for coming out of retirement and helping us out. We were in a bind, I'll tell you. And you came back and gave up the good life there and went to work. And you did. That's exactly what you did. You dug in and went to work. You looked at every issue and you offered some good, sound advice on it. And we really, really appreciate that. We're going to miss Jan too. I'll miss seeing you at the meetings. I love the way you keep him in check there. You guys should have seen him when they came in, and it was just us in the room here. Boy, Jan told him exactly what, don't talk. That's So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us. Get out there and play a little golf. Okay. All right. Okay, Miss Castle, if you would join me at the podium now. I have to be careful with this because it's two pieces. Nobody told me about that. We almost had a disaster. All right, put this up. This is our award of recognition that we're giving Bonnie, and this opens up. And it's very nice. You don't get it yet. I got to talk first. Whoa, that's big. You be careful with it when you do get it. Okay. All right. Now sometimes we have to do some things on the board that's maybe not that pleasant of a thing to do. And this definitely qualifies as one of them, saying goodbye to Bonnie Castle. I tell you, but before I say goodbye, I want you to understand what she has brought to this board. She's been on the board since 2006. Now, let me tell you a few of the things. I had to write it down. I started looking at things, I had to write this down, okay? Bonnie has taught the elementary level, middle school, high school, and yes, college as well. She is, in fact, a teacher. Now, not only did she teach in these places, but every place she goes, she moves to a leadership position. Let me name some of the leadership positions she has held. She was a department chair, a mentor teacher, a trainer of teachers, a master teacher, and an accreditation chair as well, before getting on the board. Many of you know that Bonnie is also a National Park Ranger. That's one of her passions. And here's some of the places that she's worked at. She's been at Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park, Crater Lake National Park, and yes, she was even a National Park Ranger at Yellowstone National Park. And while all this went on, she was still an active board member. She was actually calling into meetings while she was at these national parks. So that's pretty amazing. Now here's something that a lot of you probably don't know about Bonnie. She is a published author as well. She wrote a book called Columbia, A History of the Gem of the Southern Mines. And I don't have a copy of that. I feel bad about it. But the reason I mention all this is quite simple. Bonnie has brought a wealth of experience to this board. And it's hard to imagine how somebody so young could achieve all of those things, but somehow she's managed to do it. Now, Bonnie joined us in 2006. I remember that well because I voted for her. I voted for you in 2010 as well, before we divided up the district. Now, I want to tell you just a few of the things that Bonnie has done in that time. She's attended over 300 board meetings, received about 800 reports, voted on nearly 3,500 different items. And this is the one that got me. Bonnie, you've approved over $3.4 billion in budgets. Isn't that incredible? Everything else is for them. This is for you. There's no possible way that I can thank you enough for everything you've given this board. You always came prepared, and whenever you wanted to bring up something, we knew it was going to be really well researched. You'd come with all your notes and everything, and you'd call on, you'd go out and get people to come in and support your position. I like that. You taught me a lot about being a board member. You made me a better board member. You made this board a better board.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Bonnie, for everything. I'm going to leave this here because it's going to fall.
Yes. Thank you so much, George. It's a very long agenda tonight, so I will be very brief. I have to tell you that a lot of you know, I'm so glad there's so many district people in the audience. A lot of you know that before my 12 years, which was incredible, incredible enough to spend that long on the board. But before that, I was a teacher for the district, as George mentioned. And then if you go back like 4 decades, I was actually the mother's helper, the person that made the cupcakes and all of that when we were a new family that came to this area in 1978 and enrolled our children in Lodi Unified Schools. And I just need to share the one thing I've learned with all my 40 years in this district. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, but it has been 40 years from the beginning. And especially the last 12 years as a board member, it's been a wonderful, I don't think it's really called a job, but a position, because I was able to go out throughout the district and meet all kinds of people, spend a lot of time with the kids and so on. And here's what I know, and I'm saying this to all of you, and that is, and to my colleagues on the board, and Kathy and Lynn and Mike and everyone, we have, and we already know this, an incredible staff that works for this district. I don't care what the job description is, the site you work at, or if you're an M&O, driving buses, whatever, but I have seen that time and time and time again. I visited a lot of schools. I see everyone smiling at those kids, and we all know when someone smiles at us, how that makes us feel. And so I've just seen this incredible level of kindness and generosity directed at our children, and with rare exceptions. So thank you all for that. Pat yourself on the back and know that we, we're not a factory that produces stuff like dishwashers or something. What we do is we care for and love and educate these kids. And I thank you all for that, and it has been my great privilege. This is what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I was kind of a nerdy Pollyanna kind of kid and wanted to be in a profession that was giving back, and I've done that for 40 years. I am very well pleased and happy that it was for this district. So thank you so much.
Mr. President.
Sir.
I think we all have those family members at those family gatherings. You might know what I'm talking about, especially having just survived Thanksgiving and looking forward to the holidays. But when you kind of walk into the room with your family, you see some that you kind of cringe and say, oh my, they showed up. And then others that you look forward and you say, thank goodness they showed up, that you really look forward to seeing. And in the family of the Lodi Unified School Board, Bonnie is someone that I've always looked forward to seeing every single time that I come to a meeting. And as Ms. Neely pointed out, there were many times where she wouldn't be there because she may be on assignment and be calling in. And you say, well, Bonnie's calling in, isn't she? And the staff would reassure me that Bonnie would be there. And that's because she's that type of person. She's a person that walks into the room, lights up the room, and just makes you feel better for being there and really helps you in carrying out your mission. And those are pretty amazing traits to have. And that's how much I look forward to being here. When we were campaigning for Measure U, she truly was our secret weapon. We went to the Stockton Record, and whenever we went into a committee or a group, someone would say, oh, Ms. Castle, I don't know if you recall me, but you were my history teacher. Well, she was everybody's history teacher. And I think that's why Web Measure was so successful, because of her credibility carried over to the measure, and people went so far. I was very fortunate to work with her on the goal setting committee this fall, and I couldn't think of a better individual to be in charge of that, because everything that she does comes with kindness, compassion, and she is a champion of our kids in our schools. When Read 180 was on the chopping blocks for some of our schools, she fought harder than all to make sure that it is available to every single one of our kids so that they can get the start that they need. It's been an honor serving with you, and thank you very, very much for your service. I'm definitely going to miss you.
very easy to tell when I first met you how much you actually really, truly, from the heart, care about children. The years of service that you've put in really tells everybody that public education is an important thing. Our next generation are important. And seeing how much you care really is gratifying to see. I mean, you are absolutely a model for other people to follow. Thank you for your service. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie always finds something nice in everybody, in every situation. No matter how bad it is, she never seems to get jaded. So in many respects, I look at Bonnie as being our Jiminy Cricket. She's kind of the conscience of the board. And Bonnie, again, I want to thank you for everything you've done for this board and for Lodi Unified in general over the past decades. Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Bonnie and I go back, actually she was elected in 2006 and I came in 2 years later when the crisis began. In other words, we were laying off teachers, laying off administrators, and we were throwing rocks at us at McNair when we met with a whole bunch of people. And I remember one meeting where we stayed till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to resolve some of the problems that we had during that crisis. Bonnie and I became pretty good friends. As a matter of fact, I sat there next to her, and every time we came to the board meetings, and even now, when we go outside, we talk about our grandchildren, our friends. And she has a great daughter that teaches at Tokay, and I went to speak in one of her classes, and my gosh, it was a nice experience for me. And I thank Bonnie for sharing all her experiences with her grandchildren, with mine, and we had a great time. And you've done an excellent job, Bonnie. I'm going to miss you, miss your personality and all the work that you've done for our board and our kids and all our students. I call them kid students because I'm a little bit older, just a little younger than Daryl, but it's all right. I'm going to tie you, by the way, in 20 if I don't get recalled. Okay? Yes. I'll be tying her for the amount of years on the board, and you served 12 years. Thank you very much, Bonnie, for it.
Bonnie, in the 4 years, I've been able to sit in different positions, but I have to say that you are truly my favorite bookend. And the reason why is things can be, in the Board of Education, rather contentious. And we do speak up and speak out and speak loud and get slightly upset. You have always maintained your cool. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for being next to me and keeping me that way. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Sir.
And there's one thing else I want to acknowledge Ms. Council for. She was the first woman president of the Lodi Unified School Board. And she's always been a pioneer in that respect, and I want to applaud her for that also.
At that time, we had a female president of the board, a female superintendent, assistant superintendents, curriculum. Wow, we were leading there, weren't we? Okay. In closing, just thank you both very much. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss you. All right. Next item on the agenda is we have 3 public hearings. Declare the first one open. It's the staff of Aspire Vincent Chavry Charter School has presented their charter renewal for petition. Because of the length of this agenda, I have asked all board members to make sure that they have read that thoroughly. And are there any questions from any board members as we open this public hearing? Any questions from the public? Where's our representatives from, fire? Okay, if you come up, I just got one quick question. And it concerns special ed, okay? I'm curious, Lodi Unified, special ed infringes on our general funds by about $28 million a year. How much does special ed infringe upon things at your school?
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for having us here and to introduce myself. I'm Kat Ellison, the Associate Superintendent, and I have with me Carla Fashner, our President. And thank you for having us here, esteemed Board President and Dr. Washer. So we also have the challenge of having infringement from our special education. I do not know the exact number, but every year it changes. And right now, one of the things that we're doing is we're really examining practices that we can change in our general education model to really have a multi-tiered system of support so that we're hopefully preventing some of that infringement or encroachment from happening in our general ed budget. But if you'd like, I'd be happy to get you the specific number.
Could you get that information
Of
for me? I
course.
really appreciate it. I saw that about 7% of your students fall under special ed.
Yes, at Vincent, that's correct.
Okay. All right, and that was the only question I have. If you can get that information back to me, I'll share it with the rest of the board, that'd be great.
We'll gladly do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
Any other questions from the public? Seeing none, we're going to close that public hearing. Second public hearing for Lodi Unified District contract reopeners with Lodi Pupil Personnel Association, that's LPPA, for the 2018-19 school year. We're going to open that public hearing. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the board? Seeing none, we're going to close that public hearing. We have one more. The Lodi Unified Supervisory Group, LUSG, reopeners for the 2018-19 school year. We're going to open that public hearing. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the board? Seeing no comments, we're going to close that public hearing. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I have a couple pictures here for you from the Block L celebration for Lodi High. This is where Lodi High School celebrates academic achievement, gives students pins for their jackets, block letter L, similar to what an athlete might earn. And they had a record number of students earning academic accolades. 212 students earned an award, and the place was packed with parents. So congratulations to Lodi High for their excellence in student achievement. Also want to acknowledge Dr. Tolkien. Want to thank you for your support. Thank you for stepping in when the community needed you. We greatly appreciate the insight and your perspective that you have provided to us as a district and to the community. As was mentioned before, your sense of humor has been enlightening. We've greatly appreciated your not only jovial take on things, but keeping things light in the midst of things when they could get otherwise quite controversial. Appreciate the thought that you have given to the items that you are passionate about. You have brought a lot to the district, and I think that we are stronger because of you. So thank you so much for your service. Mrs. Castle, I'm gonna miss you. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. We have superintendent's comments at the end, and we should talk about esports if you could.
Oh, certainly.
Okay. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to comments from the public. A 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit his or her comments to 3 minutes, but is welcome to distribute any materials to the board and/or staff. Excuse me. Due to restrictions imposed by the California Brown Act regarding discussing topics that are not on the agenda, board members may not engage in dialogue about the issue. So please don't think that we don't hear you. We just can't speak about it. And I have 5 cards up here. Dr. Washer, you'll be keeping time on this. I've kind of categorized them by topic. We're going to start off with Danielle Doble. Music Department Event Invitation. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Washer, members of the board. I am Danielle Doble. I'm here with the music department, and we have many events coming up in the next several weeks, from concert, choirs, band concerts, ukulele concerts, musical play productions. We are very busy. This is a very busy time of year for us. We're excited to share these things with our communities, our parents, and also we'd like to extend the invitation for you as well. Anybody who would like to attend, the invitation is open. We'd love to have you. And we would also just like to say thank you for your support, and we are very appreciative of your support for our program. So may I bring these forward?
Sure. Absolutely. You are free to distribute any materials.
It is the same. There might be one change, an addition on December 13th.
Thank you very much, Danielle.
Mr. President,
Sir?
of course, I wouldn't comment on one of our speakers.
No, you wouldn't. I know that. I know
But
that.
I do believe that this was provided to us by the superintendent's office in our weekly briefing and our hot topics or something of this nature. And this is fantastic. It is absolutely amazing to see the effort that all of our schools are going through, which means that there's well over 53 different presentations of every size, shape, and type. This is amazing to see the effort that's put together by our parents, our children, and by our school teachers. So thank you very much for sharing with us. If we could make this available to the public on our website, on maybe the district page, so that others can enjoy this also, that'd be fantastic. But of course, I would never ever comment on a public comment.
I know and I respect you for that.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Suzanne Ruiz. She's going to talk about school readiness and preschool concerns.
Good evening, Dr. Washer and the Lodi Unified School District Board. I'm here tonight because of my passion for children and quality. I came on board with the Lodi Unified School Readiness and Preschool Program in April of 2017 with a wealth of experience. In 2015, I left my teaching position to join the QRIS team. This is a state-funded quality rating improvement system using tools to measure environmental and teacher-child interactions. There are many components to our school readiness and preschool program, which include education, health, family engagement, developmental screenings, and much more. We have two different programs in school readiness and preschool. One is a state-funded program, which has been in the district for many years. The other program is the Head Start partnership with San Joaquin County Office of Education, which came to Lodi Unified in 2016. We have many concerns in regards to the way the program has been handled over the years. The concerns are health and safety of staff and children, licensing compliance, which is Title 22 and state performance standards, and materials and supplies for our classrooms for our youngest children. It's imperative that we are providing highest quality care and education for the 0 to 5 population. Over the years, I have worked in multiple areas of education, from infant toddler development, preschool teacher, high school teacher, child development, and ROP, careers with infants and toddlers. I left that job because it's very important to me, the quality that we're providing for the children in the early years, because research has shown that 90% of the child's brain, of all of our brains, were developed by the age of 5. So we need to give them high quality, and the state of California has recognized that with the quality rating improvement system, and we are trying really hard to provide that quality to the children, but we've really had some issues or concerns over getting those materials and items into the classrooms so the teachers can do their job and provide those quality experiences for children. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next up, we have Nelly Campos. Is that how you pronounce it?
Nayeli.
Nayeli?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Come on.
Okay, good evening, Dr. Washer and members of the board. In order to provide a high-quality preschool environment, we as teachers complete ECHRS. This stands for Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale. It is a tool used to help us set up a classroom environment in terms of what is developmentally appropriate with preschool-aged children and how to provide a best and high-quality environment. This tool consists of 37 items that are divided into 7 subscales. Personal care routines, furnishings and display for children, language reasoning experiences, fine and gross motor activities, creative activities, social development, and adult needs. In the first quarter of school, teachers are expected to set up the classroom centers with appropriate materials to provide meaningful learning opportunities for children to learn through play. Since every classroom is different yearly, the way the classroom was set up previously may not work for the same children this year, and the classroom needs to be rearranged to meet children's needs. Although we have a para-educator in the classroom, the para-educators are only present during classroom hours with children and not after class to help with prep, or in this case, with setting up the classroom. This is done on top of other necessary paperwork that teachers need to complete within the first quarter of school, such as getting to know children and families with their needs and goals, complete questionnaires on children's development, and complete assessment tools on children. When setting up the classroom, we are expected to score ourselves in each of the 37 items on a scale from 1 to 7, 7 being the highest score. After completing each category, we complete a summary of findings page in which we pick the lowest scores and make goals on how we can improve that score. Most of those low scores include low or lack of materials. Orders are placed for the necessary materials and turned in along with the ECHRS scores. However, orders on materials tend to not be submitted, and we are left with low scores and lack of materials in the classroom. This makes it difficult for teachers to be able to provide a high-quality classroom and provide meaningful learning opportunities with children. ECHRS are completed at the beginning of every school year by the teachers. However, when goals are not met from the previous year to obtain a higher score, teachers are left with submitting another order with the same materials that were lacking from the year before. How are teachers expected to provide a high-quality learning experience and teaching tools when we are expressing our needs to better our classroom environment and we are not seeing improved scores and rather repeated paperwork? We need your support and understanding that a high-quality preschool environment is necessary to teachers to be successful and to prepare preschoolers with best practices for their future education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Jennifer Cruz. Jennifer's going to talk to us about school readiness and preschool family engagement. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for having me here today to talk about some of the issues that school readiness and preschool has.
Jennifer, Mr. Nob is kind of old. He doesn't hear too well. Could you
I will talk louder, yes.
Yeah.
They turn it up.
Well, and I'm also very glad to see that we have a lot of leadership on board here, and I think what we're here doing at School Readiness and Preschool is also advocating for being as leaders and stepping up for the things that we need. Part of my job is family engagement that also is not even being done in compliance with what Head Start is asking. So we're just here just so that you are aware of some of our concerns, and we just want to speak on it so that you are aware of it. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity to hear what we are saying, and hopefully you can have some discussion behind closed doors and find out what's really going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next we have Kathy Komani. I was in the ballpark. Okay. And she is also going to talk to us about health and safety of staff.
Good evening, Dr. Walsh and the member of the board. My name is Kathy Kumani. I have been working for Head Start Preschool 29 years and just come on board with Lodi Unified School District, but this is my 3rd year here. I'm here to express my concerns regarding health and safety of the staff. The school readiness requires us to make a home visit, which is more than in the previous years. So, and also we have to make a home visit by ourselves and to the family's home once a month. And we feel like that it's not necessary to make 6 home visits per year because in the past we only make with the own Head Start preschool, they are required, the program is required for only 3 home visits, which is appropriate because we do 3 assessment, 3 periods, the initial and the first home visit and the final home visit. And being in the family's home, when we feel like by ourselves, there's a lot of that we need to be aware of, especially safety of ourselves. And we just wanted to ask the board to look into it and see where we're coming from, especially for the safety of ourselves. For us, we feel that we need to be health and safety in order for us to provide well education for the children. And I like again to thank you for allowing me to speak up here on the board. This is my first time speak up in the public, and so again, thank you very, very much.
You did a fantastic job. And that's it for our public comments. Thank you all very much for joining us here tonight. Next on the agenda is comments from board members. However, I'm going to change things up a little bit and let our student representative talk because we do have a rather lengthy meeting, so I'm going to give her the option of leaving after board member comments.
Thank you very much. President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before I get into my student report, I would just like to let you guys know that I was just informed by Mr. Binder that he will not be with us tonight because of personal family reasonings. So, yes, he just wanted to make sure
Mr. Binder comes from a large family. That can be any number of things.
Yeah, he just wanted to let you guys know that he's very sorry he couldn't be here tonight. All right, to get into Lodi High's board report, okay? So for our interacting club, we just did a KCRA Kids Canned Food Drive for Thanksgiving. We collected over 2,000 cans of food. Lodi High's perimeter fence has been running up and very smoothly since October 22nd. Students have been they've been getting more used to showing their ID cards to get into the school. Student government has collected over $2,100 in gift cards, pillows, blankets, toiletries, new clothes for the 5 victims of Chico. Due to the air quality, we raised over $250 due to a fundraiser for a turkey kickoff. We weren't able to do the turkey kickoff, so now we're making it into a Christmas kickoff. So no turkey, but we're going to put that money towards the students of Butte County so they can have their spending money because they don't really have anything right now. Lodi High's Performing Arts Club will be performing a Clue play December 4th, 5th, and 7th. Also in the following week, December 11th, 13th, and 14th. LHS Student Government is promoting our school-wide theme, LEAD. LED stands for, L is learn, E stands to empathize, A is act appropriately, and D, decide wisely. Into our Lodi High Light Parade float, it will promote positive school culture. 4 students received a letter of recommendation of National Merit Scholarship Program for their outstanding performances on the SATs. Upcoming events, preseason basketball, soccer, wrestling are underway. Bell ringing for Salvation Army at Hobby Lobby will be approaching December 8th and possibly adopt a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. You know, I want to mention just real quickly about the fundraisers and things for the people of Butte County and Paradise. That was a big subject at the California School Board Association meeting. And we got this from them, from the people there. They're having a tough time taking donations right now. So we need to really coordinate that. And we, as a district, should probably take the lead in that, finding out what our people can do and get that information out to them. There were people there, other districts that were saying that, hey, we're ready to donate portable classrooms, supplies, computers. And they looked at us and said, the problem is we have nowhere to put it. We have nothing. And it's sad. The current president of CSBA, his area as a school board member is the area where the fire started. So he was very familiar with everything, what's going on. We all want to help them. We've got to make that happen, but we've got to find out how to do it right to really help them. We may have some old portables that when they get ready for them, you know, we can do something about that. Maybe some old computers, things like that we can help out. So anyway, thank you very much for that. Thank you for your report.
Thank
Sir.
you.
Yes, Ms. Lozano, I want to congratulate you on being homecoming queen of Lodi High School.
Thank you very much.
I think Mr. Heberly was homecoming queen. Oh, sorry.
Do you have any idea what we have to put on?
Only tonight. That's it. Okay, thank you very much. Comments from the board? Sir.
Ms. Neely mentioned this a while ago, I also attended the CSBA conference in San Francisco this last weekend. There were, as you could expect, a lot of good presentations, a lot of nice networking opportunities, and hopefully that experience will help me be a better board member in the months to come. But I promised that I would bring this toolbox that I made at the conference. It was one of the booths that was set up by metal shop. It was an apprentice program. In addition, there was this is sheet metal. This is also from the Carpenters Union. They all have programs in both high school and college. And in fact, the group that the Carpenters Union has a program at our Lincoln Tech right now. All this is CTE curriculum, and I found it funny. I don't know how many booths there had to be. How many do you think, George? 500 anyway.
I was going to say 3, but something
okay.
Like that, yeah.
And most of them were people just walked by. But this one, people were standing in line so they could make this box. It's called hands-on education, and so I'm still promoting that. As Dr. Wash is shaking her head. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connect.
I need that.
Mr. President.
Sir.
Thank you for your comments talking about the crisis that we faced with the air quality for our students. Our problems, quite obviously, are quite small compared to the victims of the Camp Fire, and our thoughts and prayers and support clearly goes out to them and all the other victims of wildfires in California. But I would like to also acknowledge the leadership of you, Mr. Neely, as president of the board. Leadership is, I gave this some thought while we were doing this, that leadership is not doing what everyone else does, that's simply being a follower. And leadership isn't complaining that we should be doing something else, that's simply being a critic. And while we need critics and followers at different times, being a true leader is taking the best input available and leading the district in this way. And that's what this board did, was lead. And through the staff, the superintendent's office, the district, and through you, Mr. Neely, we led through unprecedented crisis and did the best for our students with what we had available. And I'd like to commend you for your efforts in that unprecedented crisis.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. I appreciate that very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Neely, I just want to acknowledge that we have a board member from Area 4, representing Area 4, Courtney Porter. He's here, Mr. Porter. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Welcome, Mr. Porter. See you on Thursday.
Yes. And Tuesday.
And Tuesday. And it just goes on and on, buddy. Okay.
I'll in-service him.
All right. So, there you go. Okay. I wanted to thank preschool teachers for coming and for your comments very much. That was great. Let you know that California is looking at, according to CSBA, looking at additional funds specifically for preschool. And that will really be welcome. So, thank you very much for your input. I'd be happy to meet with you, talk about this, okay? All right, I've got lots of things to tell you about CSBA, but I'm not going to do it tonight because we don't have time. So I will do my report in January on that. We can put that on the agenda. All right, moving right along. We are to the consent agenda A. Are there any items that board members would like pulled from consent agenda A? Seeing none. Are there any items that a member of the audience would like pulled from consent agenda A?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve routine agenda 8.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We have no students to vote, so I'm calling on the vote.
Mr. President, board members, she had to leave for another.
I talked to her before the meeting, said, hey, I'm going to get you in here early so you can leave if you need to. All right, consent agenda A passes at 7-0.
But she's still monitoring us on the web.
She is, yeah. Well, actually, we implant something into our perfect board members so they can always know what's going on. Other action items, OAI-1, ratification of tentative agreement with the California School Employees Association. Ms. McKillop.
Mr. President, this agreement has been reached with the CSEA Association, and they have ratified it, so it is now before you for approval.
Thank you, Mr. McKilligan. Any comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this item OA1.
Thank you, Mr. Knopf. Where did we get the second? Mr. Haverly seconded. Did you catch that?
Are you getting old?
Yes. All right. Any comments from the public?
I have to try to get ahead of him once.
Okay, my only comment is, thank you all very much, both sides that worked on this. It's I have it saying both sides, but it's one unit, it's Lodi Unified that worked on that, and we really do appreciate what happened on this. Thank you very much. Having said that, calling for the vote. The tentative agreement becomes an agreement. Thank you very much. Next item on the board is the annual audit report ending in June 30th, 2018. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. I'd like to ask Peggy Vanderworm from Gilbert and Associates, the board's auditors, and also our director and controller, April Juarez. I would like to thank April and her team. This is April's first audit, and she's continuing a long legacy of zero findings. It was an audit can either be a long read or a short read for a CBO. It's a short read if you can turn to the very back under the findings and recommendations and see financial findings, zero, compliance findings, zero. So I'd like to thank April and the whole accounting team for keeping the vigilance up. And without further ado,
April, Peggy, welcome to the meeting.
Oh, thank you, sir. President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer, good evening. I just wanted to introduce Ms. Peggy Van Voren, auditor partners of the Gilbert's Associates, the district's certified public accounting firm. She's here to present the audit report. A few weeks ago, we have already met with the members of the audit committee, and she's here to discuss the highlights of it and answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight. Is this on? And present today. As
it is on. You may need to pull it a little bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can
hear. As April mentioned, we met with the district's audit committee, which includes 3 board members, and went through the report extensively. I think we spent over an hour going through the report and going through the details of any kind of changes. As I'm sure you're aware, I provided an executives committee, and I know you have a large agenda tonight, so I'm gonna keep it brief for you and just go through some highlights. This audit report is for the June 30, 2018 fiscal year end. We've done the district's financial audit and compliance audit aspects, which includes both federal and state compliance. We go out to various different school sites, test attendance, test different compliance. We test special ed programs and so forth. And I'm happy to report that the district had no findings, as Leonard had mentioned. Additionally, we had no audit adjustments, which is quite a feat. I know this is April's first time being the lead of the audit and taking over some big shoes to fill with Maria leaving the district. So we were very thrilled to continue to have a good working relationship with the district. Everybody was very forthcoming with all the information that we request. And from a highlight perspective, there was one new accounting standard that was required to be implemented this year, which I'm not going to go into details, but it is related to other post-employment benefits, and it required the district to bring on the health care benefits that it's offered its employees onto their financial statements this year. The financials also do incorporate the new refunding that was done back in December 2017. With that, I know that you guys have had an opportunity to review the report.
Okay, any questions from the board? Yes, ma'am?
I just want to tell everyone with my long tenure on this board that this is a really big deal. Peggy has been coming to us for years, and April, welcome, nice to see you. We always do really well on this, and that is a big deal. It really is. I just want to say that because as a district, this is such an important document, and in my whole time on the board, we usually get like gold stars from Peggy, and April now is doing the work as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Any other comments? I'm gonna give you one real quick. He probably didn't explain this to you, but you shouldn't start out perfect. All right? We a couple of small things, so then you got room to move up. Now we're going to expect this from you every time. All right? April, fantastic. Peggy, thank you so much for the work you put in on this.
Yeah, and I'd just like to commend everybody in the district. Maria and her team did a great job, but it's an effort with everybody that we touch base with. We meet with Dr. Washer, we meet with various different program directors, we go out to different school sites and work with the administrative staff out there, and everything was, as usual, very clean, and everybody was forthcoming with all the information we request, so.
Fantastic.
And Mr. President, I would join in that exactly. In the report, there's a section that says our findings, recommendations, and changes to be made. And I said, aha, this is where, we're getting the rubber meets the road. And the findings were that everything was done spectacularly, recommended changes were none, and audits and changes were fantastic. So with a new CBO and a new director, carrying on the tradition of Lodi High is very important to this board. So thank you very much for this wonderful job that you did, and thank you for the outstanding audit.
It's all
So,
April.
we have one more coming here.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies. Thank you for your work. Being a member of the audit committee, we have the opportunity to go through this with Peggy, and they can explain everything they do, how it all comes together, what we're doing. But what's really nice, and like Ms. Castle said, is we should be really proud of this kind of thing, and it is a big deal. We're talking about compliance, we're talking about accountability, and when you come up with clean findings, I guess, it is a worthwhile thing to let the public know and kind of reassure them that we're being good stewards of what you want entrusting us to take care of. So, I think it might be maybe a nice little blurb, something on the website that, unfortunately, agencies don't do a really good job when it comes to saying the things that go well. Well, we should be able to say things that go well, and we should also say things that don't go so well, but we're going to work on it and make it better. So I think this is one of those things that we can really be proud of, and your work obviously is it obviously shows. So thank you so much for keeping us in compliance and for accountability. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Second.
Wow. Impressed. Okay. Any yeah, we're not going to vote yet. Yeah. Oh, you guys can go. Any comments from the public? Questions from the public? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other board comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Board is accepted 7-0. Item OAI3, Proposed Business Services Reorganization. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before you is a request to alter our upper leadership strand in business services. The motivation for this is to sort of remove some modicum of oversight over both our transportation and our nutrition services programs, which are running very smoothly, add more to the facilities and planning, giving all the measure work that we have, but also in anticipation of some potential retirements that we have at this level possibly in the 2018-19 years. So this reorganization does reduce the Director of Facilities and Planning from the Senior Director of Operations down to a Director 1. I believe the board has seen the savings that are anticipated over the 5-year period. I would ask that the board beware of savings from a CBO, because he's likely to ask for something else in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Question? Yes, sir.
I would move approval of this item A.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please.
If we could have the flow chart up on the screen, please. And if we could stop right there. When we go to that first yellow square in the middle, Mr. Khan, what I see is that the two areas most responsible for implementing Measure U would be the CBO, the Senior Director of Operations, and the Director of M&O at this time. And now if we go to the new layout, the next page, those three positions are now going to be combined into two positions. And you're one of those people. Is that my understanding?
No, so the Director of M&O just moves to a level with other Director 3s. No position is combined into two. The three positions still exist. However, the Director 1 is a reduction from the Senior Director of Operations.
All right.
All right. So it's my understanding from the former Senior Director that the M&O Director was to remain M&O Director during the course of Measure U. It wasn't that facilities was to take over M&O to help effect the projects under the Measure U program. I'll point out that in the Measure U program, in facilities and planning, it's a 3-member department right now, not counting the director. Our goal has been to hire outside expertise to actually manage our projects for us. I think the board's seen that happen, and at some point, all $281 million will be spent, and it will be back to a 3-person.
Very good. And I guess that's my point of it. Every day that we go adds inflationary costs to our Measure U, and our $281 million plus the other monies they have available becomes less valuable and less goes towards project. I think we can agree to that, right?
And at least in terms of planning, yes, sir.
And that's why our deadlines are so important.
Yes,
and you're asking for a department that's being run now by 3 supervisors to be cut down to a department being run by 2 supervisors. And you're asking for it, which is fine, but I'm asking you, Mr. Khan, is this really what you're asking for? That we're going to try now to get the work that's previously been done by 3, and we're working to make deadlines, and we're going to try to do this with 2.
Again, I think prior to this, there were 2 people involved: the senior director of operations and the CBO. M&O was their M&O. The M&O director's purview was M&O, not Measure U construction projects. So I do believe it's always been 2. I do believe it will function well as 2. I don't know, more too many cooks.
Okay. You know, that driving over here, that's exactly the way I saw it also, and that must be what you're asking for. But you're asking for it. I'm sure the sport's going to give it to you, but lots of luck also. Wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Calling for the vote. Item 3 passes 7-0. Item 4, further discussion and possible adoption of changes to district mission, vision, and goals. Before I turn this over to Ms. Gassel for an explanation, I do want to say that we have 30,000 students, we have 4,000 employees, we have so many thousands, tens of thousands of families, and there are going to be that many different ideas on how we could write this. You know what? And a lot of them are good. I got to commend Ms. Castle and her committee for the work that you guys put in on this. I think you've done a fantastic job. I really appreciate it, and we can nitpick and change and wordsmith this to death, or we can pick something and go with it. So having said that, there you go, Ms. Castle.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Neely. Yes, I had the great privilege of serving as the chairperson of the revision of the mission, vision, goals, and I want to recognize Mr. Freitas, Mr. Nava were a part of the committee as well. Dr. Washer was also immensely helpful, and we worked very well together, and I agree with George. I like this week. We've had several times now to look at this. I think, and Michael, could we have that on the screen? So it's just that first page. You should be able to see it in just a second. It's a pretty brief document. We divided it into mission, and then the vision and the goals. There we go. And I think it embraces who we are as a district. I like how it has lots of powerful, meaningful words. And best of all, to me, that document is our promise and commitment to the community's children. And it has been a collaborative process. We did take feedback from the community and use that as well. And I'm anxious to hear what my colleagues have to say. I think we know how George feels about whether or not we should adopt this. This is an action item, so we could get this done very quickly. Gentlemen, anyone else with comments about this?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Ms. Castle, I also like almost everything in it, and I think I've already talked to you about my one concern, and that's by replacing the last bullet point. And the next page, there's two possible suggestions. Actually, the first one I wrote. The second one I think was written by staff, I guess, right? And I would like to insert either one of those. Would be fine with me. Probably the one that was written by staff is a little bit more broader and more acceptable than mine. So I would like to insert that in place of the last bullet point.
So,
And Michael's getting that on the screen for you all to
Okay,
see
okay.
what Mr. Knack said, talking about. Those are two suggestions. Does anyone else have any comments? What I will say about the first one, I'll just read it really quickly here. So in other words, what Mr. Knackstead is saying is, in place of the final goal, which reads, supports, and I'm reading on the first page now, support school-related extracurricular activities to enhance the development of life skills for students. Mr. Knackstead is suggesting that that very top bullet, which says, support related academic curriculum activities in CTE, STEM, BAPA, speech, and other programs that will enhance student achievement and life skills. This is just my opinion. Having coached academic decathlon long ago, and knowing the excellent journalism teachers that we have at schools, at our high schools, and student government and so forth, I like what this says, but I think we have to list all of those to include everybody so that none of these extracurricular activities feel left out, whereas the last goal on the first page is more broad-based. That's simply my opinion. And gentlemen, could I hear from all of you, please?
look up on, I think Gary is actually, he said he wrote the first one, but that he wanted to go with the second one.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Gary, I did not hear that. Okay.
Well, I would take either one of them, but I think the second one's a little broader.
Is broader.
And that's acceptable to me.
Okay. And what do you all feel?
I like the second one also because it does mention elective fields, career preparation, plus the core. I think that really kind of hits them all, and almost anything you could think of would fall under one of those. So I would go with that second one also.
Yeah, I would echo what Mr. Heverly said.
Okay.
Bonnie, I agree with you that you can't list, because just as soon as you list, something new comes out. And,
Yes.
you know, so I like the second one as well. I like that broad course of study. That's something that we always talk about, and I think it says it all there, so.
Okay, and
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
4 board members, so we have a quorum on that.
What if we did a hybrid to the second one? And if we, after the word develop, we put the term life skills, to develop life skills and enhance interests, talents, and skills in core academics, career preparation, and elective fields, then it seems like we would have a combination of the one that's currently before us and one of the two amendments.
It is my opinion, just my opinion only, that, first of all, it's kind of unusual what we've got here, okay? We've got two things here. Is what we vote on the first document? And if it is, then if we want one of the other two statements, then we can make a motion to amend the first document. That motion has to be voted on prior to the vote on the document itself.
Mr. Neely, Mayor's Board, you could do it that way, but since this is the agenda item, is the mission, vision, and goals, the motion can be one of these two instead of what's on the first page. That can be the motion.
As part of the motion, right.
Because nothing has been adopted at this point.
Right. So,
The agenda doesn't say to adopt this specific one.
right, okay. All right, so. No, I'm trying not to. I'm trying to keep this simple. All right, here's what we've got. Here's my recommendation. Mr. Knack said, you made a suggestion.
I'll make a motion if you want.
Well, and Mr. Freitas.
Well, you know, having worked on the committee, I know one of the goals that we wanted to recognize in our bullet points here was extracurricular activities. And I think at first it started with talking about band, music, and arts. And then it got expanded to this last bullet point, which our committee thought will achieve what we were trying to accomplish in talking about extracurriculars. So the other word I would add, if we weren't going to use this bullet point, would be support a broad course of study and extracurriculars and extracurricular activities that offer the students the opportunity to develop life skills and enhance interests, talents, and skills in core academic career preparation and elective fields. So I know it's getting pretty wordy. I kind of like what the committee suggests in
The original document.
Original document. So,
Okay.
So one comment on that. The term extracurricular and co-curricular is often confused, and I don't think that serves us to use that term at all, honestly. When we have, what, in my opinion, on the two suggested ones, or at least the second suggested one, kind of says what it means, I think.
Okay. At this point, I want somebody to put this into a motion. If you would like me to put it into a motion, I'll craft it. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt this mission, vision, and goals document with the change of using the second suggested bullet point in lieu of the last bullet point that was listed.
Okay, so I've got a motion. Second. I have a second. Any board discussion on this motion? Motion?
I have a question now. You want to eliminate bullet 2?
No, the last one.
No, the very last one.
On the
No,
first
just the last
page,
one.
the last one, replace it with bullet 2 on the second page.
Let me explain the motion. The motion is to accept the original page, the first page, with the exception of deleting the last bullet point and replacing it with the second bullet point on the accompanying page. Okay, that's our motion.
That's so easy. It's an easy motion.
Okay, so is there any discussion from the public? Okay.
I'm Doug Zelke. I teach music at Washington and Houston, and being a music teacher, I'm very familiar that the word extracurricular gets used for music. It might meet that definition broadly. It is an elective course. Well, my middle school students are elective. Everybody at Washington sees me whether they want to or not. But even being elective, even being elective, it is defined by the state of California as a core subject area with state standards. So I was just uncomfortable with, I mean, I won't lose sleep over it, but I was uncomfortable with putting music in as an extracurricular. You know, I understand there's many after-school things that are involved in music, but it is also a class during the school day.
Right.
So I can certainly support either of the amendments, or either of the suggested changes to the fifth bullet point.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate that. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to wrap this up and call for a vote. Ready? Uh-oh. Oh. Just sign in and join me. Well, you signed in already, so.
What's happening here, man?
The suspense is killing me.
You gotta close off, yeah, close off that.
Well, no, it's just.
How many precincts have reported?
That's it. This is voter suppression over here, that's what this is.
You had 65 minutes to go in your last meeting.
I know.
Not that
That's
anyone
what's
keep count. Keep it
All right, there we go, got it.
All right. Okay, there we go. And the motion passes 7-0. Thank you all very much, all three of you, for the work that you put on this. I've witnessed some of that work. You guys did a great job. And that finishes up our action items.
We'd like to thank Mr. Matstaff for his...
Oh, no. We have Lodi Unified School District Board of Education will officially receive the petition of Quantum Charter Collegiate Academy. Mr. McGregor.
Yes, the Quantum Charter Collegiate Academy has submitted their petition for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. All we're doing tonight is acknowledging...
Accepting.
Acknowledging...
You're acknowledging receipt of.
That's what I was about to say before I was interrupted. All right. All we're doing tonight is accepting the petition. There are no need for comment on it. Okay. But I have to ask, any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, let's call on the vote. Oh, yeah, give me a motion. I'm sorry.
Will you accept it, Mr. Meehan?
Thank you, sir. Second. And we have a second. All right. Let's get this thing underway. Okay. That is accepted. 7-0. Mr. McKilligan, personnel matters.
Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Thank you, Ms. Nava. Second. Thank you, Dr. Talkin. And questions from the board?
It appears that one of the items is the resignation of Mr. Porter, who was recognized earlier for his election.
I saw that.
I think he has left. That will be effective December 11th for his appointment to the board. So.
I remember that well. I taught the day before. Yeah.
So I will be supporting this item.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Calling for the vote. Personnel matters passes 7-0. Communications, we've already done student representatives. Comments from employee group representatives.
I'll go first.
Hey, Deborah.
Yay!
Good evening, President Neely, members of the board, and Superintendent Washer. Thank you for passing our tentative agreement. That was a long process. It felt very collaborative, and I want to thank you for that. We worked hard. We thought outside the box. We have some new language, some new program, and we're excited to see what's going to happen. We don't know, but we feel like we're working toward helping our members have an option. So I want to thank you for that. Also, I want to thank you for your thoughtfulness about closing the schools. Mr. Neely, you gave me a phone call, and I felt like your heart was broken for the students that would miss out on the services that we provide for our community every day. And that's a huge thing to consider. You said it earlier, we have 30,000 students. 70% of them depend on us for 2 meals a day or more. That's a big deal. The week of Thanksgiving, we're going to tell these families that they're not going to get any meals for their kids. it was hard, but it was the right decision, but it was really a hard decision to come to. And I thank you for that. And I also want to thank the superintendent for sending out an email blast after we all came back that was really helpful, because we've never gone through this before. So the employees don't know. They have no idea what this means. So I'm getting all these phone calls that we're not going to have any money. It's Christmas. We're going to lose all this pay. It's like, no. So the superintendent sent out the letter saying, we don't know what's going to happen, but we think everything's going to be fine. We'll deal with it. Should we not, everything not be approved, but this is what we're working toward. And that really helped. And we appreciate just that. There was really no answer. It wasn't, this is what's going to happen, but it was, this is our plan. This is how we're going to carry it out. And should it not come to fruition, we will let you know. But it allayed the fears of so many of the members of CSEA who just were certain they were going to have to come back and work extra days or miss money. And when was it going to happen? And what if I had a lady call me and say, I've already bought my plane tickets for my vacation. What will I do if they make me work those days? And I'm like, honey, you're so far ahead. We're gonna work with today, and we'll see what happens later. So just the communication was excellent. We really appreciated that. Of course, everyone didn't get notified, because I'm certain that of our 4,000 employees, we had at least 10 who had changed their phone number in the last 30 days, so they didn't get the notice. Okay, that happens. That's okay, we can deal with that. Overall, it felt like it went really well. CSEA folks felt like they knew what was going on, and hopefully, everything went well. So that was good. I really appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge the board members who have, you all have consistently picked up the phone when I call. When I have a question, when I have a concern, when CSEA members need something, you pick up the phone and you listen. You don't promise, you just listen. And if I say something to you, I get the response of, well, I will check that out. And you do. And we appreciate that. Much of what we were able to come to an agreement with our tentative agreement, is because I have been telling you for years about the way the funding works for medical benefits, and you have said to me, let me look into that. Let me figure that out. And you have done it, and now we've come to an agreement that is new, not something that we've had before, the way that it's structured. So I really appreciate that. And I hope that we will be able to continue. I don't have any reason to doubt that we would be able to continue this type of collaboration, where you tell me something and I check it out, and I tell you something and you check it out. I don't expect you to believe everything I say. I could embellish. It's been known to happen. So that's okay. Check it out. Make sure that what I've said is correct, and maybe there's a way we can work together to solve an issue. That's all we're looking for, just collaboration, communication, and trust. And I just really want to thank you for this great relationship that we've had. It has come to pass that I will be the president again for another 2 years. So unfortunately, I'll be calling, and you'll have to pick up the phone.
We look forward to it.
So, Dr. Tolkien, I want to thank you for your years on the board. We've appreciated your voice of wisdom and experience, and wish you well. I know you enjoy your extra golfing when you can, so I hope that you have lots of time to enjoy that. And Ms. Castle, you have been here nearly the entire time I've been in the district. You've been a board member. And so it's going to be a lot different now without you here. Your smiling face, your positive attitude, always thoughtful. We're going to have something new. So thank you for your years of service, and thank you to all of you, and I look forward to more time to work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Dr. Washer, members of the board. I just want to say real quickly, thank you, Bonnie, for all the help and support. I think across the board, we felt as a unit that you guys have appreciated our services and worked with us and our different members and all our particular needs. And I want to thank Mr. Talkin as well for all the work you've been doing. As far as negotiations, appreciate you doing the second opener, and hopefully we'll get on that real quick and make it happen. And just in that regard, there's a line from Harry met Sally, and I just would simply want to say, I'll have what she's having.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Thank you. Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening. I think we're all feeling that way, John. Good evening, President Neely, members of the board, Superintendent Washer. First, I want to start again with the acknowledgement and recognition. As a teacher, both of you have been in my classroom. Ms. Castle, Dr. Talkin, you have read with my students, read to my students, listened to my students read to you over the years. And beyond the classroom, when changes come on a site where we are looking at reconfiguring a 4-6 site to be a K-6 site, Ms. Castle, you were there. You listened. You were at every single parent forum for both Heritage and Heritage Intermediate. You listened to every parent, every teacher. You walked those campuses. You listened and then took action. And of course, some of those actions, public teachers, we don't always agree. But your heart was always in it for the kids and the staff. You always looked out. I'm getting teary. What was best, and I appreciate that personally.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm getting teary too. Thank you.
I was getting teary.
Dr. Talkin, we've not known each other as long, but I feel like you were the model principal that kept me on the straight line when I was in high school. And coming to our district, you brought a sense of humor, as we've heard tonight, but you also brought a dedicated passion for what is best in every single classroom to every single child. I always say I stand on my soapboxes about certain topics, and I know you were very passionate about combo classes and trying to reduce, which you did, and get rid of. We're still working on it, and I appreciate that, and all teachers appreciate how passionate you were, that you cared about every child in the classroom and how that curriculum was delivered and that they had the best resources. And some decisions as a board that you have to make are very hard. And teachers, we recognize that. We don't always agree, but we can respectfully disagree. And I thoroughly have learned from our conversations about education, the change, the progress, the 2 steps back, the 1 step forward again, for what's best for kids everywhere. And I do appreciate from the bottom of my heart what you have brought to Lodi Unified, so thank you. Your family. We have hard conversations monthly, And for years, some of you have been in my classroom and met with my students and helped my students. So again, thank you. With regards to air quality, I want to first say, as we have been talking all year long about improved communication, what can we do to make sure that we can communicate to all members efficiently, quickly, and this situation was unprecedented. No one in the state really has experienced this, and without direct orders for closing. And I have to say, I have to recognize Mr. Neely for the phone calls, Superintendent Washer for the phone calls, the emails, the conversations continually about the constant updates. I also need to recognize both our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education and Secondary, because there were changes at both of those two kind of grade level areas and the sites and the plants, and I appreciate their constant feedback and updates about things. And sometimes we didn't think of something and something else came up, and I appreciate that we could have honest conversations and frank conversations about the safety of students and employees. With that also being said, I want to acknowledge M&O, Mitch Slater and Tim. Holy moly, I didn't know how much I didn't really want to know about air filtration in our two-story buildings and our portables. The differences that we have there, boy, I feel like we know quite a bit now. And we've educated some members. And I appreciate the willingness for Mitch to take phone calls up until 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, when teachers had concerns about what was happening in their classroom. And the responsiveness of that department going out to classrooms to change things, to fix things at the ready. And with just a couple of exceptions, everyone working there and checking back did a phenomenal job. It was a hard decision, and Deb is right. We all talked about those families and this time of year and the weather and the holidays, and how can our families, we've all worked at those schools, who can't afford to take time off or can't afford somebody to stay home with their kids. So how does that keep them safer? So we do know and recognize that it was hard decisions, and there was no one perfect answer or solution. And I want to thank for better communication and quicker responses. And there are some things as we go forward. I think Deborah mentioned the phone system and making sure that we update, and there's some, and I don't know if that's personnel or technology, way that quickly members can get those telephone numbers and emails changed. But also, when they found a problem at a site, maybe as the safety committee gets together on Thursday, looking at the communication between my building, reporting it to my site, reporting it to the district. How can we fine tune that so it goes quicker, especially in emergency situations? And this kind of gave us all pause to reflect on our REMS binder and maybe some new things that we need to update. I do appreciate, although our meeting was cut short with Assistant Superintendent Mr. McGregor, he and I have had conversations from your preschool teachers, the general ed, both Head Start and state, and he has, we've rescheduled some time to continue that conversation. So I want you to be aware that the topics that were discussed, we've started the dialogue on continuing those. As you know, some of the preschool stuff is still at the bargaining table to be discussed. But as we also have a new director, we hope to see some of those things improved and the communication improved. But we do appreciate Mr. McGregor listening to that and also listening to the discussion on the single site plans and last year what we were hearing from members about the plans and the budgets. And as you look forward to that and a new template, I hope that every school site administrator, I see we have quite a few of them tonight in the audience, that is shared all of that budget information transparently with those schools so that they do know where those dollars are spent, so that we are funding from the bottom up as the LCAP suggests. I also want to extend a thank you to Jeff Palmquist over some safety issues that we've had and looking outside the box and bringing stuff forward and talking about how can we do things differently with PBIS. So the communication is much improved and is occurring on a more timely basis, and we appreciate that. And so as we go forward, my sad heart, and wish you all the best golfing days and more hiking on mountaintops and educating students about the wild beyond. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to all of our employee group representatives. We'll talk esports next time, okay? Are you good with that? You don't have anything else to say?
Nope.
Nope, good. All right. We're going to move through the reports. You know, I look out here and I see that I've got a lot of principals in the audience, and I apologize for you guys having to sit around and wait on us for this. So I would like to move, unless there's an objection. What are the principals here for the single site plan, or?
Yes.
Okay, that's what it's here for. If we do the single site plan now, then can they leave?
We do have some here for the accountability one as well.
Let's do those two first then. Are you okay with that, Lisa?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Title one first.
What's that?
The school plans first.
Let's do it first.
Okay.
You know, Lisa, you're just on all these reports anyway.
Sitting up at the table for a while, and different people are going to join me.
Let's do what we can to get these principals out of here. They have to get up early in the morning. I apologize. You know what, if somebody brought this up, we'd have done it first. Maybe.
Maybe.
Probably.
You have to do everything first. You can't do everything first.
Can't do everything first, can you? I understand. All right.
Okay, Mr. President Neely, members of the board, and Dr. Washer, before we start this, I do feel I have to say goodbye to Mrs. Castle and Mr. Talkin, Dr. Talkin. We will miss you. It's been, I guess I could say, a 4-year ride with Dr. Talkin and 10 or 11 years. Well, I came on in about 2008 when the excitement started around here.
So it was your fault.
It was my fault. I have big shoulders. See, I'm wearing my pants tonight. So anyway, we bring before you tonight the Title I school plans as a report item, and we will bring them back next Tuesday as an action item for you. If you have some questions about the plans.
See them again?
Yes, you do.
What's the deadline for the approval of these things?
There is no specific deadline in terms of a drop dead date. The issue is if we don't approve them, our Title I funds, legally we shouldn't allow the schools to spend.
We'll approve it as soon as we can. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. So, any questions that you have regarding the school plans?
Anybody have any questions about our school plans?
On page 20.
Oh, dude. Any questions or comments from the public? All right, let's move on to the next thing then.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to talk about the next item is the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress.
Right.
You are excused unless you're part of another report.
And I've invited Mr.
Hey, thank you all very much for coming tonight.
Guys, glad you came.
Let's get together and do this again sometime, all right?
Same time next year. Okay, so, I am going to, in the eyes of efficiency and expediency with all of these reports tonight, I'm going to be very brief, and I'm going to ask Mr. Melandro to be very brief in his report. So I'm just going to tell you that we were requested to do a 3-year comparison for all of our schools in both English language arts and mathematics. And at that point, I'm turning it over to Mr. Melandro, and then I'm sure he'll throw it open for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gutowski. Dr. Washer, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Tolkien and Ms. Castle, I'm privileged to be here at your last board meeting to be presenting 2 reports. So when you think back to your last board meetings, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm going to think of. What we're here to talk about today, we shared some CASP data before, and in general, we shared how we were doing at the top end, those schools who were exceeding. And so what we were asked to do and what we're bringing forward today is just to share some information about where we might need some academic support. As we bring this to you today, the point that we're bringing this forward is just like with the state. This is to say these schools are not doing well. It's we need to provide support for specific schools, and how would we determine that? So, first of all, I want to take a look at how we did as a district in math, and we maintained the percent of students meeting or exceeding standards. However, we did have 3 grades district-wide that decreased their percent of students meeting standards, grade 5, 7, and 11, with grade 5, 7, and 8 showing the lowest percent that meet standards. So that's district overall. School site math, we had 15 of our sites had a decrease in the percent of students meeting standards. So when we look forward between 2016-17 and 2017-18, we do have some schools that did not do as well. The sites with the largest decrease, you see are listed there with 8, 7, and 5 points. So as we move forward and we look at, are there sites that do need our support? Those might be a consideration, and I'll get into that at the end of the presentation. We also always want to look at Title I school sites. We had 21 of the 25 Title I school sites had a lower percent of students meeting standards than overall. Again, part of the issue with Title I sites is they do need additional support, so we would have expected that. And you see the list of several schools there that were below that percent. The largest 1-year change in terms of decrease, we have those schools listed, and then we have also a 3-year change, because we want to make sure we can always have a blip. We can always have a school go up or down in 1 year, but we want to take a look at those schools that are here over 3 years, what level of change. So we did have a few schools that did show a decrease in that percent of meeting or exceeding the standard over 3 years, and they're listed on the presentation. Looking at the same thing in terms of ELA, we did increase the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards by 1 point, but we did have 2 grades in ELA that also decreased. Grade 7 and grade 11 was our largest decrease, but I'll call your attention to last year at this same time, and we were talking about grade 11 had the largest increase. So again, that's why we want to be careful about taking a 1-year look. Grade 5 had the lowest percentage of students meeting the standards, but it was not very far behind all the rest of the grades. School site information. 13 of our school sites decreased the percent of students meeting or exceeding standards in English language arts. Then you see the several schools there that represent the largest decrease. So again, we did have, especially at the high school level, we had a large increase the previous year, and then we dropped some this year. So you can take a look at those sites that, again, we want to take a look at, is there additional support needed? Title I schools, again, about the same number of schools that scored with a lower percentage in the district in ELA as math, and then you look at the largest 1-year change, and then again, 3-year change. And some of the schools happen to be in both of those, which we'll talk about in a moment, how we would look at what schools will be determined need additional support. One thing that's new that we didn't talk about before when we talked about those schools who were exceeding and doing better than the district average, is one of the district's goals, the board goals, deals with third grade reading. So in working with Dr. Washer, we wanted to say, how can we decide, how are we going to measure if indeed that goal is being met? We've always talked about meeting or exceeding the standards in English language arts. However, we do get that English language arts score broken down into different claims. One of those claims is reading. So when we take a look at that, we actually had an increase in the percent of students who were above, or rather who were not below, in that one claim. So as we look forward, we want to say, how are we doing specifically in that one claim? Not necessarily overall in English language arts, we always look at that, but how are we doing specifically with reading, as that is part of the board goal? So then what we come down to is, we have all this data, I know you're thrilled, I know you're excited about it, I can see it on your face. How does that help us in determining who needs support? So we're going to provide you with a number of schools today that we say may be considered. And again, that doesn't mean that those schools necessarily will receive that, it just bears further investigation. These are the things that we had to look at. We looked at their 17-18 scores in math and ELA. We looked at a 1-year change, and we looked at a 3-year change. Did we see a trend? And we did the same thing for the reading claim. And now my favorite colorful slide. The official Venn diagram. What we did then is we said, all right, do we have schools that need help in just one area? Because if a school site is doing well in ELA, why would we provide them with support there? Maybe they just need it in one area. So you take a look at the top, and you look at that blue circle that says CASP ELA. There is no school that is only showing up there. So we don't have any school that only needed help in that area. Then you go look at the green circle with math. We only had one school that only needed help in math, and that would be McNair. Then we start taking a look at third grade reading only. When you look at third grade reading only in that far right circle, we see Lockford, Julia Morgan, and Borchard are doing fine in all the other areas, including ELA overall. But when we look at the 3-year change, and we look at some of that data, they may be considered to need academic support in just the reading claim. Then you can see where those begin to intersect. ELA and math, we had Delta Sierra, Davis, Sutherland, and Oakwood who needed assistance in both of those areas. ELA and third grade reading, Needham and Woodbridge. Math and third grade reading, Victor. Then in the center, what we have is, those are the schools that when we looked at the data, the current year, the change over time, ELA, math, and third grade reading, they came forward as needing academic support in all of those areas. So what we're just sharing tonight is, as we begin to look at using data, we want to try and use data to lead us into areas that we can provide school sites with academic support. And so that's what we're sharing here today. I sent you some backup information as well, but hopefully this consolidated it in these last 2 slides are probably the most important slides in what we are at least initially considering. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from the board? There are a couple of comments. Go ahead.
I just have a comment, and Mr. Milano, Ms. Katalski, this Venn diagram, spectacular. I mean, we've had this presentation on many different data resources and many different strategies, and even reviewing this, now that you've made this clear, this is very, very helpful to the board. Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you, Mr. Trace. Okay, I had the pleasure of seeing a preview of this report a while ago, and Mr. Melandra had explained to me that this is a report about needing assistance. This isn't a report about schools that are doing very good. So we have to make sure that we understand that as we look at this. And I appreciate everything that you put into this. Obviously, you put a lot of work into it. It's great. I also looked at our data as far as some of the things that we're doing right. And I just wanted to tell you, we have some real success stories. Susan Peterson and her group out at Nichols School is doing something that is just unbelievable. They have increased their scores by about 30 points over that's for both math and English, over the last 3-year period. To me, those are, and we have some others too. Lawrence, you guys have just been doing a fantastic job. There's several schools out there, and I wish I'd have brought my paperwork with me so I could name them all. I did so at the meeting, I think. But we need to go to those schools and learn what's going on. How is it working so well? And we need to also understand why some of our schools aren't doing so well. We do have schools that over a 3-year period have decreased both in English language arts and math. And when we talk about test scores, we've got to remember, but test scores are important. No, they're not the only thing we do, but they are important. As a teacher, I always check for understanding. That's all a test score is. And test scores don't tell you about people, they tell you about programs. Somebody is doing something that's working, and some others are doing things that aren't working. So we just got to figure out what it is so that everybody can achieve. That's why this is important. I really appreciate your information on this. Comments from the public? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we release the rest of our principals now? They're putting their coats on. I see that. All right. Thank you guys very much for coming. Really appreciate it.
If I may ask if we could do the LCAP one, since Mr. Melandro is sitting here with us.
Sure. Bring one. Absolutely. Whatever you think is right. We're all here for the long haul, so. Well, actually, just another 30 minutes.
I was going to say, this is probably, these two are probably our longest reports, because the others were really quite quick. Pick it up. I'm picking it up, okay. Mr. Milano, he likes to use the words. What can I say?
I believe I've been quite succinct.
Yes, you have been. And I am going to skip the first, I think, 9 slides, because they are a repeat of what we have shown you before. And we don't need to repeat those.
Can we get the, I'm sorry, can we get the page change?
Oh, okay.
My computer still shows the last report.
We're going to go back to slide 1 because Randy's going to use it, but he's going to use slide 1. I am just going to tell you we're skipping those slides because we're going to focus on student achievement and people engagement. And those are what you're going to hear tonight in the LCAP report from our assessments from last year, not going forward. So go ahead, Mr. Milano.
Thank you, Ms. Gutowski. Dr. Washer, President Neely, members of the board. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Assessment Research and Evaluation Department, and specifically Ms. Deborah Ladwig, for all their help in putting this data together for the reports. That just doesn't happen, and one person doesn't do that. So we really appreciate the teamwork in our department to bring that forward. So first of all, the reason I wanted you to take a look at this very first slide is on the bottom left-hand corner. In all of the slides, when we talk about the LCAP goals, we try to use colors to make it easier. I know, Mr. Navi, you mentioned you really like those colors. So the goal met. If you see it in green, that means we did meet that particular goal. If you see brown, that means we did not meet the goal, but we did show progress or improvement. If it is in red, not only did we not meet that goal, but we also had a decline. So I just wanted to show that slide as we move forward. And all of the next few slides are going to be dealing with section 2.2, which is All students, including targeted students, will demonstrate proficiency in literacy, math, and technology to prepare students to be college and career ready. So we will be dealing with that as we move forward. However, as you take a look up here in front of you, in bright red letters, new test data not yet available. So for the science test, our students took that, and just today, we did get our first set of scores to begin to look at, not by individual student. So we will be taking a look at that, but that just came to us today. So moving on, we want to look at now at literacy. So we had, in literacy, we said all of our students, we wanted to increase the percentage meeting proficiency, and we did that. That's why it's green. We wanted to have our English learners and low-income students increase at a greater rate than overall. Well, we see that unfortunately our English learners were exactly the same. So we were close, but didn't quite meet that goal. But our low-income students did increase in terms of meeting or exceeding standards at a greater percentage than all students. Next, we looked at the same thing in math. How do we do in math? In terms of all students who wanted to increase proficiency, we didn't, we maintained in math. However, we did see an increase in English learners and low-income students, so we did meet that particular section of that goal. Next, we want to make sure our students are moving forward and making growth in their English proficiency. In the past, we used CELT, so we would compare CELT 1 year to the next. Well, this past year we used a new assessment, LPAC. We're not able to show growth because this is baseline data. As we go forward next year and the following year, then we'll be able to show growth. So that's why that's in blue here. There's none of the three colors I mentioned before because we don't have any comparison yet. Next, we want to look at reclassification rate. Now, we've done an amazing job in reclassification rate in the past. We've changed some of the criteria a couple of years ago, and we've seen a lot of students reclassified. We did see a decline in that this year because a large number of our students who were close already have been reclassified. The other thing is we have LPAC that we use this year. It is a much more rigorous assessment for our English learners, and it will take them 2 years to kind of figure out those cut scores exactly. So we only use the highest level in LPAC for reclassification. So we did see a bit of a decrease there, but that was expected as we were told by the state because of the level of rigor of LPAC. Our long-term English learners, those who've been in the program for 6 or more years and are not showing consistent growth, they decreased even more. And again, because we took that top level of students who were to be reclassified, and over the last 2 or 3 years, we've reclassified a large number of our students. So we need to go back to work with this particular level of students. Next, what we want to look at is increasing the number of students with qualified AP scores by 3%. We did that by much more than 3%. We increased the number of students who took the test, the number of students who were enrolled in the test, and the number of students with scores of 3 or higher on the test. So we're very pleased as we move forward in meeting that goal with respect to AP. Not only that, the next slide, we needed to make sure we had more English learners and more low-income students enrolled in those AP classes. Are we doing that? Well, we wanted to increase AP enrollment for our English learners by 2%. But you'll notice up there, again, you see that color brown, we did make growth, but we didn't meet the 2%. However, we did for our low-income students who wanted to increase by 2%, and they increased by almost 4%. So we see we are providing a diverse population access to those classes, and students are engaging in those classes, and they're being successful in those classes. Next, we wanted to increase the number of ready students in ELA or math. Now, again, in the past, this was done by a separate test called the EAP. Students took that test or not. Now, the EAP, that level or set of questions to see if students are ready for college or not, is embedded in our Smarter Balanced Assessment state assessments. So in essence, all of our students are taking it. But are more being college ready? We'll see, unfortunately not. We had a decrease of 11% in our students who scored at the exceeded level. Now, it's important that you understand, In order for a student, a junior, to be considered ready, they have to have exceeded standards on the 11th grade test. So again, we had a slight decrease there, and we also had a decrease in math. So the number of students who showed that they exceeded those standards in ELA and math did decrease. So we did not meet the goal looking at the EAP in our plan. The number of students who completed their A through G requirements, we wanted to increase that by 3%. Unfortunately, we dropped by 1.7 of students who graduate and complete all their A through G requirements. So we didn't meet that goal, we actually declined. We see green on this slide. I know the board has mentioned on a number of occasions about increasing enrollment in CTE classes. That is happening in Lodi Unified School District. As you see here, we increased the enrollment of students participating in CTE courses by 2.4%. So we're at about a third of our students taking part in those CTE courses. So that is a nice gain, and we did meet that goal. Next, we said we want to implement an electronic monitoring system. We are now moving into section 2.3, and that goal is having a positive and supporting learning environment. Part of that is getting kids in school. So we do have a monitoring system there. We have letters that are automatically created. But if you go to that second part, this is brand new. When the California dashboard comes out, hopefully on Thursday, schools will now get a color and will be scored on chronic absenteeism. If we take a look at how we've done from last year to this, you see that we actually had a higher percent of students who were chronically absent this year than last. So what are we doing with that? Well, we are now creating reports every month that go to school sites that tell them these are the students who are chronically absent, this is your percent this year compared to last year. So we're really trying to make an impact and provide information so sites will be able to really work with those students who are shown to be chronically absent. Next, we are continuing to have the incentive, but our ADA did decrease. We went from 94.96 to 94.44, so we dropped about 0.5% in terms of our average ADA. We are still providing the incentive, but unfortunately, our attendance did decrease a little bit. Next, this goal to monitor and track middle school dropouts. Our numbers are really small, but the CDE has a program that we do monitor that. We had 15 students in grade 7 and 10 students in grade 8 who were dropouts. That does not necessarily mean they dropped out. It just means when they left our school system, we are not able to find out where they enrolled elsewhere. But that number is relatively low. Next, finally, we have, and I'm able to bring to you information that is up to date, which is highly unusual in terms of dropouts and graduation rates. We said we wanted to decrease the dropout rate. We did do that district-wide by 0.2%. The next slide, very exciting, I think, when we take a look at that. We now have accurate, up-to-date. This is 2017-18 data. The last several years we brought this to you, it's been 2 years behind. It's very difficult to use that kind of data. When we look at Lodi Unified, we did increase our graduation rate by 1.8%. So what we've done is we find ourselves, if we can get it moving there we go. We are moving in the right direction. District-wide, we're at 85.9% of our students graduate. So we are seeing that start to move up. And this is even in a year when the federal government told the state, you need to have more stringent graduation requirements. You can no longer include some of the things we used to include for a diploma. So we do see a positive move in terms of graduation rate. Next, you'll see this isn't green. We did decrease our suspension rate. We want to do that by 1%. We only decreased it by 0.5. When you look at the number of students who we are suspending, that number is very low. It's very difficult when you have that small of a percent to decrease that by a complete single percent. But we are seeing movement in the right direction. Maintain an expulsion rate. Of 2% or lower, we dropped by 0.07. We're at now 0.13% of our students. So you see, we're definitely trending in the right direction in keeping our students in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malandro. Questions? Comments? I have one. I think it's really like the one with the Venn diagram, obviously, before. I think it's really important that instead of having information in these huge blocks that you really can't dig into and define it and separate it, I'm really happy to see that it's easier to separate. May not be easier for you, but it's easier for us to see it, you know, after you guys work your magic on it. Because if you're looking at it from this big, you don't know where to go, and it doesn't really give you that much detail. But once you can start separating all this stuff, I think it really helps us a lot. It gives us some direction of where to go. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Statistics and that kind of thing is, yeah. If you don't, it can get really tough, and you can get a lot of statistics that mean absolutely nothing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Any other comments, questions?
I agree, pictures worth 1,000 words.
Okay. All right, very good. Any comments, questions from the public? Thank you, Mr. Malandro.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Ms. Katowski, could you please do your board policy revisions real quick?
Sure, next presentation.
Yeah, Randy, thank you. It's understanding. I can understand you.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you very nice.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fritz, what did you say?
Just thanking them.
Oh, got it. I'm sorry, I thought you were saying something beyond.
Okay, President Neely, members of the board, we have 4 board policies that we are bringing forward for revision. And one of them is new, the rest are just being edited for updating for ESSA or LCAP, those types of things. We've shared the board policies with Leah. They've had them the opportunity. We shared them at Curriculum Council. So we're bringing them for their first review today.
Fantastic, okay. And the comments, we'll bring these back as a consent agenda item, right? Okay, there's the reason I wanted to do that, because now we're done with that. Now we have one more report.
Yeah.
If I could just,
Oh, I'm sorry, comments on that?
believe it or not, there actually is. The last one that's being submitted, revision to policy 6161.1, which is the selection and evaluation of election materials. Seems like we devoted quite a bit of time to a meeting with regards to how we're going to select instructional materials going forward. And instead of just rubber stamping what's been presented to us by CSBA, maybe this is an opportunity for you, Mr. Neely, to implement the changes that you were looking for, so that we would then have a 2-step process where we would have maybe more of a pass-fail type opportunity, and then create the negotiations going on. So it was interesting that we had discussed this in an earlier meeting about changing this, and now Ms. Katowski brings it forward to us. So maybe going forward, we want to spend a little bit more time on this particular policy revision.
Great idea. I'd like to talk to Mr. Khan about that as well, get him involved in that discussion. So that may be one that we bring back, or we pull on the consent agenda, or whatever you'd like to do. Any comments or, thank you, Mr. Freitas. Any comments, questions from the public? Okay. Your last report.
Yes, it's like my night tonight. My last report is on our financial literacy. We were given the challenge to see how we could incorporate financial literacy into our high school students, making sure that all of our high school students receive financial literacy, maybe possibly making it a high school graduation requirement, and so forth. In the PowerPoint, you'll see that there were 4 options that we came up with some solutions. We are recommending, after meeting with the economics teachers, which all of our senior class students have to take, that we include financial literacy in their economics class. I was really quite surprised when I had the meeting with the teachers. They came with reams of activities and paper and PowerPoints that they've already been doing with their students. So they were really excited to see an emphasis from the board into financial literacy, and they really would like it to expand it more in their class, so not to add another graduation requirement to students. Since they're already having to take the economics class, they would expand the financial literacy that they have, and they would like it to be on a software program, more software than the old, cut and paste and those kinds of things. And so we talked about what we call next generation personal finance. And some of our teachers have already gone to training, and they've been really, unbeknownst to all of this, they've gone to the training and said, this is what we like, we want to bring this to the district, and it is really cool. So that's what we're recommending.
Great. I'm going to make a comment on this real quick. My goal in bringing this up was not to have financial literacy as a high school graduation requirement. My goal was to make sure that every student got training in financial literacy. And if this is a method of doing that, if we actually do make this part of that course, I'm all for it. And I'll drop any push for making it
Every teacher that was there, and they communicated it out with their departments, have been very supportive of that. And the nice piece about Next Gen, I'm sorry, I just jumped into answers, that it can be 8 hours or 12 hours, so it can be fit into the McNair schedule, the other 3 high school schedules. It has the ability to do that for the teachers and the students. And then, of course, there are exams and things and activities that kids do. So there's some demonstration that they are actually attaining to what they're trying to do.
I'd like to see that program. So there's someplace
I was just going to ask that same thing.
I will give you my password and my code, because you have to be an educator and the whole thing. So I'll send it to you. I'll email it to you.
That'd be great. Questions, comments?
Mr. Nealon, I just want to remind you that we do have financial literacy courses that students can take. They are A through G approved. Several of our high schools already have those going, and have some have more than one section. And California Jumpstart, which is a foundation that advocates for financial literacy in schools, is actually watching to see what we're doing.
Right. Okay.
Now, is this a separate program then, or?
This would be something entirely different than the 2 courses or 2 or 3 courses that we already have. We have different level of courses based for our students. We have a course that the alternative ed use for their classes, and then we have a very CP course, financial literacy, that I believe is taught at Lodi High, written by the Lodi High math teacher, and then there's another financial literacy course also being offered at other schools.
So those are elected courses then?
Yes.
So
yes.
Not every student gets the opportunity to
Correct.
have this.
That's why this opportunity of embedding it into econ is a good idea.
That's what I was talking about, is when they went to this training, that's what they were bringing back and incorporating.
Yes.
Okay, and then all we're saying is that we want to make that more official and spread it out to everybody. Now, that program, or that information or materials or whatever it is, that's a computer-based program, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have to buy that?
No, it's completely free. It comes from an endowment, set up an established endowment, so it's completely free.
Good, I just wanted to make sure, because there are a bunch of them out there that are free. Good, perfect.
This really gives the opportunity for a lot of students to get involved in this.
Yeah, I agree.
So this computer program, is this actually, will there be teacher time involved with this, or is this something that kids are just going to have to go home and
Oh, no, teachers, they will use it in their classroom.
Okay.
It is available, they can do activities at home.
Okay.
They could go as much as they want at home, as much as the teacher wants them to proceed through the lessons at home. So it's available in the classroom at home, however the teacher wants to set it up. But our teachers will be directing the activities.
Because I would not be in favor of something that just turns the students loose. I want this to be teacher directed and monitored and all that.
Correct. And they're in the same mind. They would like to have.
I mean, in fact, I want it to be something. I don't want it to be just still think we're doing. I want it to mean something, maybe grade-wise or whatever it is. I don't think it needs to be I like the idea of putting it in the econ class because I'm guessing they're mainly doing macro and microeconomics. They're not really doing what I would call nuts and bolts, which is what used to be taught for decades and decades.
And in the econ, there's some standards in there with the new standards, Common Core standards, but the different sites, different teachers were giving different emphasis. This will get them all on the same page and working through the same system.
Last thing I can tell you, I have a grandson who's going to college, and one of his required courses is economic literacy type class, and he loves it. He said like things that he interested in, buying a car, and again things we used to do in high school forever. Dr. Washington.
I think Dr. Washington told me that this is the one thing that high school students asked for the most.
Oh, really?
Yes. Financial literacy.
Okay. Thank you.
So when can we start this?
We can start it tomorrow if we
Okay.
want. I mean, it's that simple. So
How about the semester?
We do have some trainings that we will, it's a few hour trainings that we've already kind of established, with the hope that you would give it a blessing. And so then the teachers that need to come to that will come and learn about it and,
You have something else you need from the board? You need to bring it back as a vote or anything like that? Just guidance from the report?
As long as you guys are
I
okay
support
with
it.
it.
I do.
Got 2?
You're saying youth vetting?
3?
And econ.
3?
Okay, yep,
4,
absolutely.
5, 6? 7? All right.
And I'll let you-
I was 2, I'm sorry. I thought you were 2.
I'll let you know when we have our training, if you'd like to come and be part of that, to ask questions.
I would like to go with that.
Okay.
Are there any comments or questions from the public on this before we move on? And what are we going to be moving on to? Adjournment.
Adjournment. My question is, as we've approved certain curriculum and coursework before, this is kind of being funneled into econ, so has Curriculum Council looked at this? Would that be under their purview of?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question. No, I did not bring it to Curriculum Council at this point.
Okay.
Because
Do we need to? Is that something that
No,
the
you
econ
have
teachers?
to because it's not going to be a board-approved curriculum, but
Right.
certainly Lisa can put that
I
on
think
the
it'd be a
agenda and share that with curriculum council.
I think that would be a good idea to
do it.
to share it. Maybe we could get them some passwords and let them go through it on their own even, to take a look at it. And then and then we can talk about it at the curriculum council meeting.
And I just remind, every teacher has so much to do, what is it they're taking off their plate in order to do this? And from the sounds and the teachers that were on the report, it sounds like they tried some of this, so they felt there weren't missing any other standards out of the course content that they already had to cover, correct?
Correct.
Is everybody okay with not putting it by curriculum council, or is there something we should do? What's your thought on that, Michelle?
I was just asking the question if it had gone to them, because we had just talked about
Right.
how adopting instructional materials, and it came up just in one of the
Right.
board policies.
I was just
So
wondering how you felt about it, if that's something that we should do.
my only knowledge is the limited number of teachers that were made aware of this. The report was my first sign of hearing about this.
All right, okay, thanks. All right, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I can see one potential problem actually is if I'm teaching government econ, and I've been doing it several years, I probably have a curriculum, I probably have a space that information I'm putting in there. What are they taking out in order to put the literacy,
It's my understanding that, like the teachers at Bear Creek already have like Financial Fridays, and they have been doing financial literacy on those Financial Fridays. and Joe Johnson and some of the other ladies out there. And they've been creating that on their own. So that they would not be replacing it, and they wouldn't be taking things out. They would be using up-to-date current materials, and the district would be providing those materials to them. And the same with the McNair teachers that came. They said that they do this already, but it's not uniform across the district, so.
Unless you've got McNair High, Bear Creek High, and Liberty High on here, but what about the other?
You know, when you send out invitations, not everybody comes to my parties.
You're right,
But I do
you're right.
know
Okay.
that
Don't
Lodi
serve
High
anybody,
is doing
that's
some
fine.
financial literacy. I think tomorrow I'm going to an event out there. So we have shared that out. We haven't heard any. I usually hear lots of grumblings if I do
Right.
something people don't like.
Mr. Palmquist, have you got any input on this?
Yeah,
Sure.
I do just a little bit.
President Neely, Board, Dr. Washer. I had the opportunity to work with Ms. Katowski in parsing through some of these options, and I have had correspondence with at least one of those schools that isn't represented in the meeting, and they've given a thumbs up that mesh with what they thought would be best.
All right.
So, I mean, I definitely support it based on what I've heard from the folks and from looking at all the options.
Good deal. All right. Well, let's do everything we can to get it going, but, you know, work with our teachers to make sure that, you know, that that they accept what's going on and that they're happy with it. Whatever we need.
Bring them along.
Yes.
Bring them along. There you go. That's a good term.
Or they can
Okay.
bring us along.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
5 reports. Lisa?
Well done, right?
Great job.
And I did
All
it
right.
in 30 minutes, right?
We completed this
Chairman, I
super
move we
agenda,
adjourn.
very short period of time.
And I even had
All right, I got a motion to adjourn, second, all in favor? Aye, and that is the last time I'm going to adjourn a board meeting.
All right,
For-
thank you for all your.
For many years.
And all that ragging you give me right now.
I'm gonna miss that.
I know.
Thank you, everybody.